Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at Windows 10 and see how this operating system holds up in 2023. Now, we just got some really big news that the current version of Windows 10, the latest generation of Windows 10, may actually end up being the last version of Windows 10 we may end up getting. This is version 2H2, which is the 10.0 dot so many numbers after. This is actually a pretty big deal, I think. So it's either this one or the latest preview that came out. So I think this is pretty awesome. It's kind of sad because Windows 10, in my opinion, is probably one of the best versions of Windows. Some people say Windows 7, and I would probably agree, but I also think Windows 10 was high up there as well. So I will start off by saying that this operating system isn't severely old. It's not completely that old. It's turning 8 years old this year. So it came out in 2015. And within it, this was supposed to be a big successor to Windows 8. It was more so for 8.1. But this was basically, when it kind of comes down to it, this was Microsoft trying to go ahead and pretty much rewrite history. They kind of had a weird history with operating systems. So with the Windows, XP, that was known as the best operating system or one of the best operating systems Microsoft ever has made. But then fast forward to Windows Vista, and although it was kind of a big visual change, it was a buggy mess. People didn't really like it. I didn't really use Windows Vista too much, but I did kind of hear a lot of the complaints, which was very weird. But then fast forward to Windows 7, that was one of the best operating systems, again, Microsoft has made. They just came out with heat, and it was awesome, and it was very stable, and it just looks so beautiful. Even to this day, when you go through Windows 7, it just looks like such a beautiful operating system. It's unbelievable. Then they made Windows 8. Now, I think with Windows 8, they were trying to go and make more of a mobile, I think they were really focusing on tablets and their Surface lineup. And I think they were trying to make a new Windows version basically for tablets. That's really their main focus. And they kind of missed out, I think, on a lot of Windows PC users, which was very interesting. But then Windows 10 kind of fixed everything again. And I think Windows 11 is not that bad. It's kind of getting better. But with the Windows 10, that's kind of a little history with it. Now, with this operating system, there's still lots of features and lots of things built in. And the only reason why I think even Windows 10 is not worth using, in my opinion, is because Windows 11 is here, and Windows 11 does bring more features overall than Windows 10, and there's going to be a moment, apparently right now, where Windows 10 is going to be on one of its last updates, and they're just not really going to support it like they used to. So at some point, you're not even going to be able to probably download Windows 10 ISO files. You'll probably still be able to find them. But I think for the most part, Windows is really going to make you want to download Windows 11. So you're either going to have to get used to it. And I will say the jump from Windows 8 to Windows 10 was probably a bigger jump than from Windows 10 to Windows 11. I also think the jump from Windows 7 to Windows 10 was a big jump, especially Windows 7 to Windows 8. So I think this is not as big of a jump. Of course, there's going to be bugs and issues that are all over the place. But I do think, Microsoft's done a decent job at kind of, mitigating some issues there. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. But beyond that, when you actually go through and look under the hood of Windows 10, the cool thing is that there's still a lot of stability within this operating system. One of the biggest problems I've seen with at least Windows 11 so far is people complaining about, one, bugs and issues and things like that, but two, there seems to be a lot of compatibility issues, even to this day, on a lot of different applications and games and softwares. So the thing with Windows 10 was that, from what I'm understanding, because there was just so much, hype behind Windows 10 of it being hopefully a much more solid version of Windows, and it kind of was, because of that, a lot of games and a lot of game developers were able to make games and apps and all those things on a Windows 10 PC, where it was very, very, more stable than maybe the previous versions of, operating systems. So with Windows 11, there were lots of security parameters in place. And because of that, I think they've kind of broke a lot of things. But, Microsoft has, kind of pushed out updates for those things. So I think that was good. But beyond that, I think Windows 10 has done a decent job on kind of fixing a lot of things. And I think that in and of itself was a pretty big thing as well. Now, another cool thing is that Windows 10 has been able to be installed on lots of different devices. So the cool thing is that, if you have an Xbox or one of those types of, devices that Microsoft makes, we already know that we can tie up our consoles with our Windows PCs, so they tie in fairly nice. If you have a Microsoft Surface or something like that, those things do pretty well as well. But the cool thing is that Microsoft recently has been trying to go through and kind of expand beyond Windows. And the thing that they did with Windows 11 was that they did kind of tie up a lot of different other surrounding devices beyond the Microsoft devices into their landscape. And one of the big things was Android. We were able to install Android applications natively within Windows 11, which is honestly a pretty big thing. I think there's also news right now that iMessage is now somehow coming to our Windows PCs as well on Windows 11. So there's lots of cool things happening on the Windows 11 side. And I think Windows 10, although it was a pretty big, state of stability change, I think is the best way to say, it was a pretty good, operating system for the most part. And it was a much better operating system than Windows 8. The thing that I think Windows is doing good now is that they're expanding beyond than just like the PC and Xbox type of relationship. I think they're now expanding, more so to get probably Android users to go more so on the PC side, which they probably already are. Maybe even some iPhone users to switch over fully to PCs. I think they want to expand beyond because for most people, if you have like an Android or phone or something, there's not really a big reason to have a Windows or a Mac. You just kind of choose whichever one you want. But if you know that with Windows, hey, it's easier to install certain applications, and hey, if you have a Windows PC, you can install your favorite Android apps on it. You may just want to go and pick up a Windows PC. Whereas if you have an iPhone, you're almost always going to pick up a MacBook because one, Apple's always advertising them all over the place on your iPhone. But two, because you're probably going to take your iPhone into repair or you're going to go on an update and you're going to see some MacBook stuff and you're probably like, hey, I might as well just go and update to it. So that's also something that kind of stuck out to me too. So at the end of the day, the main question I've seen is, should you keep Windows 10 on your PC or should you go ahead and upgrade to Windows 11? And to that, I would probably say, as of right now, I think Windows 10 is still a very, very important operating system. I think if you want to keep it, go for it. You're really not missing out on like a crazy amount, to be honest. But very soon, like I said, I think apparently the updates are already ending on Windows 10. You're going to be in a spot where you probably want to start upgrading to Windows 11. You might still be getting some security updates on Windows 10, but for the most part, you're going to be in a much better spot if you just go and upgrade to Windows 11 than sticking on Windows 10. That's kind of how I felt since day one of, Windows 11's release. Is, at some point, not today, but at some point you're going to want to upgrade. And funny enough, one of my tutorials that I made on this channel about how to use Windows 11, and I made this like almost 2 years ago, and that video is almost always one of my most popular videos of that month. And the reason for that is because I think people are seeing that they're going to have to upgrade at some point, and it looks like Windows 11 was a bigger change than I thought, at least visually. And because of that, people just need to know how to use their operating system. So it still looks like people are switching almost every single day to Windows 11 and searching up how to use Windows 11. And because of that, you are in good company. If you're planning on switching, I think you're going to be in a totally fine situation. There's going to be a tiny bit of a learning curve, but coming from, a Mac user myself, I use Windows 10 and Windows 11 kind of hand in hand. There's a lot of overlap. There's not really a lot of, there's definitely lots of changes, but you'll get used to them very fast. And I think Windows 10, and I think Windows 11 is a good upgrade, but Windows 10, there's not, I hope, Microsoft makes another operating system like this where it's this stable, where it's this positively reviewed. It's almost like a Windows 7, in a way. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.